So, the PC beta for Destiny 2 has now been and gone, and to a little bit of not distraught, that's not the right word, but a little bit of upset, I'm surprised that the beta wasn't extended. If you consider that by the time the previous beta had ended for console players, especially if you were a pre-order player on the PlayStation 4, you had almost a week of playing the beta. I can't remember if it went live on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. I think it was the Tuesday. It then didn't end until effectively the weekly reset. So yeah, you got pretty much a full week, where us lonely PC players ended up with 3 days if you were in the open beta. So 7 days, 3 days? Yeah. And also, the other thing that did kind of wind me up, this isn't really anything that's a negative, but the one thing that I was a little bit upset about was the fact that we didn't get, like, the UK players or the European players weren't given much of a choice if you wanted to explore the farm. Now granted, I'm not so bothered about it myself because I did experience that on the console and I don't expect it to be any different on the PC, but considering on the PC platform there is European servers and US servers, you kind of would have thought they would have opened up one session on the European servers and one session on the US servers, but they didn't. Instead, you had a single time slot to open this up, which at least for the console beta, it was at 5 PM GMT on the Sunday, which worked out like 9 AM in the morning for you guys in the States, roughly, give or take, which is a bit of a reasonable time. For this beta in Europe, you were kind of looking at 1 AM, 2 AM, depending on where you were, which, when you have a day job, doing that at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning is not really an option. But that is the only really true negative comment I have about this beta. The beta itself was a lot more rounded off and polished off compared to the console beta. I kind of like the changes to the damage figures that they've made. I actually kind of felt that you actually did some damage in PvE versus what it was like in the console, where you ended up spending... well, this was what I personally found, but I found that when I was doing this in the PvE in the console, I ended up having to waste almost a clip to take out a complete enemy, plus maybe a little bit of the next one on, say, an auto rifle. However, in the PC beta, that had been greatly improved, and you could quite easily, comfortably finish off 2 NPCs with a clip and partially a third. And likewise, yellow bars didn't seem to be almost immune to everything you were just chucking at it, which did make for a pleasant gaming experience versus the console. Now, the console wasn't the PvE, wasn't the only thing that ended up taking a change. The changes also were made to PvP, and that being the amount of kills you needed in Control. Personally, I actually have to admit, I don't think I like the change. I like the fact that it's a round number of 100 versus 75 that it was in the console. However, they didn't extend the time for that, and I tend to find that if you were in a game that was quite evenly matched, every game that we had that was evenly matched reached its time limit. Nobody actually reached a score of 100 points if it was an evenly matched game. If, however, you were completely dominating the other team, then yes, there was no problems in completing that and finishing it within the time frame. But every time that I ever went into a round that was evenly matched, we always hit the time limit, which personally, I think they either need to lower the numbers again, probably not so much that option, or extend time a little bit by another 5 minutes, so the games are 15 minutes instead of 10, or at least put in overtime or something like that if the figures are too close together. It was just annoying to have to keep on hitting the time cap every time we played Control. But that said, the Javelin map that got released on this beta, I actually really like this map. There was a lot of nook and crannies that you could kind of sneak around. I did like the flow of the map. The points were quite nicely in a bit of a triangle around this circular map, and generally speaking, I just felt that it played really well. The damage numbers were a little bit better than the console beta, so yeah, so far highly impressed. Now, Gaming Defect wouldn't be Gaming Defect if we didn't try and break the game. For those of you that know us from our previous channel, which is Co-op Comrades, we used to play a lot of Firefall, and one of our things we did was always try and find our way out of the game into non-playable areas, as it were. And likewise, we didn't want to disappoint in this, so we did spend a bit of time trying to find a way of breaking out of the map, and we did find 1 or 2 spots, But all in all, the strike that we played was pretty solid. I have to admit, I didn't get a chance to try this on the campaign mission, and I wish I had more time to do so. But running around the inverted spire, there was an awful lot of things in the way stopping you from breaking out and going to places you shouldn't have been going. There was a lot more invisible walls and death barriers put into D2 than there was in D1. Now, there was one thing in this that made this exploration process a little bit difficult, and that's the spawn locations when you've died in an area you shouldn't be. There was probably about 3 times that I had to leave the fire team, get booted back to orbit, and rejoin again because I was stuck. Especially one bit that's actually going from, if anyone's played the game, the point where you have to activate the first 2 turbines to go up to the center of the drill. If you fall off that ledge at that point, there is no solid ground to stand on. Even though it looks like you could stand on this little slopey area, it's constantly pushing you off. And the problem is, the respawn point, when you go down that little slopey area underneath those platforms, which you could quite easily fall off, it actually puts your respawn location back on that slope, and it's very hard to actually get back up the top, because 9 times out of 10 you spawn and just slip right back off the edge again. And myself, Way Hedgehog, and Sleepwalker all got stuck on this little rut, and eventually the game ended up kicking us back up to the higher level, but that was after about 4 or 5 deaths from sliding off. It just felt a little bit silly, but yeah, I don't know how they could fix that, but that was just one thing that we found. Now, generally speaking, the performance of this beta on PC, I think, it could have a little bit of improvement, but I didn't find it unplayable in any way, shape or form. I actually found it a relatively pleasant experience, despite despite the instability of frame rates. Now, I've got a NVIDIA 980 Ti superclocked, and I was kind of fluctuating on high settings. I was kind of fluctuating between 60 and about 140-ish, depending on where we were, what we were doing. But I could literally be standing there in one place and I'd be jumping from 80 to 120 frames a second, and there's not really much changing around me. So there is still room for improvement on this, and I'm hoping that obviously with some game-ready drivers before release, I know there were some game-ready drivers for the beta, but obviously they will never be the same as a final release build. I'm hoping that they will have improved on that ever so slightly, and it be a little bit more stable. But like I said, I didn't find this interrupting the gameplay sessions in any way, and actually having it on high, I was always roughly getting about 70 to 80 frames on average without fail, and at a good point I'd be getting about 140 odd, which for me is perfect because I have a 144Hz monitor, and to be honest, I didn't really want to lower the graphics settings anymore. Although, having had a look at some comparison videos around the internet of the graphics settings, to be honest, it's not really a huge difference in those graphics qualities. Even going from high to ultra high or very high, whatever it is, there was minimal difference. So I'm happy on high. I know Sleepwalker was playing on a 1080 Ti on pretty much the same settings as me, I think, unless he went up to very high, I can't remember. But yeah, pleasantly surprised on how well this ran on PC in general, with frame rates, with just general performance. The only problem that I had, which we kind of knew this going into the beta, was around streaming, and the fact that none of the streaming applications have a proper plug into Destiny, because of what they've done to try and avoid hacking and such in the game. However, their recommendation for this was to put the game in borderless window mode and then effectively do screen capture with your streaming software. Yeah, that didn't work. Initially, the game was causing OBS to crash every 5 minutes, which caused problems, so I had to reboot a few times. But also, when you did go to the options and you changed the value to borderless window, it was kind of offsetting the borderless window. You had to go into full screen windowed mode, which is slightly different, but borderless window just wasn't having none of it, and I'm hoping that does get fixed for the actual release. And talking of that setting, the other thing that was quite surprising was some of the options in the PC build. So you've got everything you can think of. You've got your FOV slider, which isn't really a slider, but a clicky move up a 1 point button thing. Having your frame rate drawn on screen, which actually you can probably see on this video anyway in the top right hand corner. And just in general, there was a plethora of options which I didn't think was unreasonable for a PC build, and I don't really think that they could have done anything better initially. I think that's perfectly satisfactory for what they've done, and at this current moment in time, I am hyped for the PC release. I can't wait for the PC release, so I have actually purchased Destiny 2 on the PlayStation 4 as well as obviously the PC version when it does come out. So you will see some pre-PC release footage from me, and that will be on PlayStation 4. So for that, I apologise. I know I've said I was going to be a PC player. I am once the game launches on PC, but until then, I will be doing console footage. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention in this video is obviously if you guys are playing Destiny and you want to join a clan, we do have Gaming Defect as a clan. We also have a Discord channel if you wish to come and join us. So by all means, I'll stick the links in the description below to the clan sign up. It is an approval process, although I will pretty much be approving anyone that sends a request. There is an approval process. So just let me know in the comments below if you want to join, and also if you want to join us on the Discord channel, then feel free to do so. But other than that, this is the end of this video, I'm afraid. As always, I've been Lord Nikon, this has been Gaming Defect, and I'll catch you in the next one.